To boost its interest rates up to 18% as it battles against financial collapse. The move is designed to stabilize the
And now, economic messages to win the support of undecided voters.
Most of the time, the noise of the world we live in is so loud that we can't hear God. We are so distracted with every factor of life, the elements that surround us, and we made us think that God is so distant from us. But there are really times that even in our efforts to reach God, to listen to God, to pray to God, to know God, God seems silent. That feeling of dull moment, the feeling of emptiness, the feeling that you're numb, feels like lifeless and dull and just empty. You know, no matter what you do in life to reach God, to know God, to talk to God, with all the things, that effort, that you're still kind of living in the dark and lost. When I was a young person, I accepted Jesus into my life. And that's also the time that I entered the university. We are a poor family. My family is so poor. And I just entered the prestigious school, Ateneo, because I graduated with honor in high school and I got academic scholar. But also during that time, my mom lost her job. And my dad is just only a security guard back in the Philippines. And that's the start of the downward slope of our family. Then they have to sell our house and then move to a one-bedroom small house. And when I get there, I was first year college, I think, or second year college. I was like, oh, we only have one room. Where's my room? I'm already like turning adult. But we're so poor, we can have to share room. And I was so passionate because serving God started, that was also the time that I became a youth coordinator, a president of a youth organization back in Davao. But I was asking God, where are you, Lord? I was serving you. And now, what's happening in my family? And to make matters worse, there was a strong rain during the time, and that little house got flooded. I was sleeping on the floor, and then suddenly I thought I was swimming because it's flooded already. And it makes me ask, where are you, God? And to my frustration, I asked desperately, not respectfully. It's like, where are you, God, with all exclamation point and all question mark? Where are you? I am serving you. I am sharing the gospel in the university. I'm discipling many people. I was even the record holder because Ateneo is Jesuit. You can share the gospel there. And I share the gospel. We share the gospel with our team, with so many students. If I see you, you're sitting there alone, I'll share the gospel to you. And this is what happened to me. This is what's happening to my family. I had sleepless nights. I have crying nights, hopeless night, to the point of I feel like, oops, I'm tired. I can't hear God anymore. And that feeling is what we call spiritual depression. That is what we call the dark night of the soul, the crisis of faith. This comes when one senses the absence of God. It seems that you're praying, you're doing your part, serving God, and God is not there by your side. There's a feeling of abandonment by Him. And this starts the question, where are you, Lord? Why you're doing this to me? Why you're doing this to my family? And every person will experience this, like what I said. I experienced that during my college time. And in my walk with God, I also experienced that during my mid-20s time. And you're probably experiencing that today. If you have not, good for you. I'm telling you, one day, there will be a time that you will walk through that valley of darkness where you can find God, and He seems silent. Great men of God also experienced this. David, in many of the Psalms, David wrote his anguish, his loneliness, his grief, his fear from his enemy. His heart cry, he cried all night, struggling. And because of that, he experienced grief. And this is what he said, running away from his sons, the loss of his son, and from his enemy. And he said, why are we depressed, my soul? Why is my heart so sad? That is the man after God's own heart. He also experienced what many Christians or great leaders experience today. It was like saying, why I'm so down? Why I'm so sad, disheartened, and demoralized? And you know Elijah, one of the great prophets, after a great spiritual victories against the prophet of Baal. Remember that? The prophet of Baal was praying to have fire, and then they cut themselves and do all some rituals. And then Elijah said, oh, come on, put the water there. Huh? Then put more water. Put more water. Make it wet. And then he just prayed, and then boom, the water came from heaven, and you can see that that's a victorious Elijah. But in some point of his life, he felt he was deserted and defeated and tired, running away from Jezebel. And you know that story, right? And he said this, I have enough, Lord. I have enough. Take my life. Have you ever said this in your life before? Lord, I have enough. Take my wife. Take my life. No. Take my wife. No, take my life. No. Jonah also said this. Jonah was also angry and wanted to run away. He was sent to Nineveh, and he said, no, I don't want to go there. And then he go and run away from God. And then suddenly there's a storm. They throw him down, and then he was taken by a big fish. And then eventually he obeyed, and then went to share the gospel to Nineveh. The people of Nineveh got saved. And then he said he was so desperate, he said, now, O Lord, take away my life. This is so motivated with jealousy and resentment because he doesn't want these people to save. And it's better for me to die than to live. Man of God shared the whole town of Nineveh. And there is what we call Job. You know Job. He had been into great loss and physical illness. This is the righteous man of God, and literally lose everything. And he suffered from the tragedy of physical illness, lost 10 of his kids, his wealth, to the point that the wife said, are you still holding on to your integrity? Go and curse God. And to the point, Job, uttered these words, I have no peace or rest. the righteous man of God, he said only troubles and worries filled his life. This is a very valid emotion, a legitimate emotion to feel when you are going through these tough times in life. Even the righteous man of God during his time experienced this. Can you imagine that? He's so righteous, and then he said these words. Remember Moses? Moses had also his grief over the sin of his own people. In his feelings of anger and betrayal to his people, he went, after his experience to the mountaintop with God, he went down, and to his disappointment, he saw his own people worshiping Baal and other gods. And the Israelites during that time was in chaos and living in sin. And in his heart, he is a good leader. So we see the man after God's own heart, the greatest prophet, the evangelist, the righteous man, a great leader. And this is what he said. I beg you to forgive them, God. If you don't, please wipe my name out of your book. What a great leader. His depression, his darkness, it's not really from himself or himself, but for the forgiveness of his own people. There's also what we call the weeping prophet, Jeremiah. He wrestled with the loneliness and insecurity. Jeremiah suffered a constant rejection from his people that he is trying to reach to. And God called him to minister, and he didn't enter into a relationship and get married or have kids. He lived alone. He served alone. He was poor. He was ridiculed. He was rejected by his own people. And in the midst of those, he displayed faith, strong faith and strength to serve God. He to the point that he said, my entire life had been filled with trouble, sorrow, and shame. That's an amazing prophet. And if you know Jesus, the Son of God, 100% God, 100% man, also have gone through these things that you call spiritual depression. He was deeply anguished over what lays before him. When he knows that, oops, I'm going to die in the next few hours. This is it. And he said, my soul is deeply grieved and overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. This is Jesus, the Son of God. And these are great people of God. They had their seasons of darkness of their souls. And it's normal. It's overwhelming, but they overcame these valleys and reigned victoriously. The truth is, in some point of our life, you and me will experience this. The good thing is, you are not alone. We are going through these valleys together. I will be with you. The people around you will be with you. Life can be hard. Families might be in conflict. We will have needs. There will be sickness. There will be hardship. And sometimes when you call God during those times, He seems silent. Good thing is you're not alone. We are on this together. Listen. The presence of spiritual depression does not mean the absence of faith. No, not at all. It doesn't mean that you're losing your faith when you are going through these dark times of life. It simply means that we are going through something of emotional despair, which is very reasonable, legitimate reason for us to experience grief, sadness, loneliness. Emotions may reach to the bottom or to the root of our soul to the point that we will experience discouragement. While this is true, that we will experience spiritual depression one day, there is no place for bitterness during those dark times. When you mourn, you mourn. When you cry, you cry. When you complain to God. And when you grieve, you grieve. You release your heart's emotions. Emotions are gifts from God. Tears are gifts from God to express what is inside in our soul, in our hearts. And it's super valid to express that. I am mad at you, Lord. Where are you? Listen to me. But our emotions must not lead us to the point of hating God. Must not lead us to the point of resentment. Must not lead us to the point of running away from God. Because the presence of spiritual depression gives way to the presence of God. I'm telling you, there is rainbow after the storm. There is sunlight after a long night of darkness. The presence of God will surely come after you go through that valley of darkness. We will examine the Psalm of Asaph. This guy, Psalm of Asaph, is a member of a choir. He is a choir director. He was a descendant from the tribe of Levi. And he is a music director, choir director. His descendants, his children and grandchildren are also part of the music ministry of Israel during that time. David commissioned him, and he served David, and also part of Solomon's reign time. He participated in both of the private and public system of Israel during that time. He has seen the worst and the best of Israel during the time. And he wrote Psalm 77. This is a psalm of lament. He was crying out to God and pleading him, asking him that he will not be silent during their times of need. And this is how Psalm 77 goes. These only verses 1 to 15, and it's going to be quick. Verse 1, I cried out to God for help. And then he re-emphasized that I cried out to God to hear me. The whole point of him repeating this is for God to hear him. Lord, you're not listening to me. I'm crying out to you. You are distant from me. In Hebrew word, this words means he was yelling. He was screaming out to God because God is so distant from him. He was wailing. It's not the cry like cry, but it's like crying. Lord, please listen to me. Please help me. Please be there to me. Please don't be distant from me. And that was the prayer of Asaph. And then he continued, when I was in distress, I sought the Lord. He was in great trouble. He was in desperation. He is seeking and crying out to God for a renewal of communion with God. I want to feel you again, Lord. I want to feel your warm embrace again. I want to be comforted by you again. I want to find directions. I want to find hope in you, Lord God. Please listen to me. Where are you, God? All night long I prayed with hands lifted toward heaven, but my soul was not comforted. All night I was trying to talk to you, but there's no answer. I know you're there listening to me while I was crying here, but you've been doing a sin zone on me. You've been looking at me as if you didn't see me. You're hearing me as if you're not listening to me. My soul was not comforted. And you probably like Asaph today. That you're crying out to God, Lord, we are in need. My family is in need. Lord, I need healing. Lord, I need comfort. Lord, I need direction. Lord, I need your help. Where are you? Then verse 3, Asaph said, I remember God and was troubled. I complained and my spirit was overwhelmed. Wow. This is a self-centered recollection of God. He said that when I recall about the acts of God, it gives me a spiritual exhaustion than comfort. And look what he said. Because of you, Lord God, I can sleep. Wow. Because of you, I am restless. Because of you, I can't even talk. The more I thought of you, Lord, the more I'm bothered. Have you experienced this? This is a picture of this. You said you are good. Then why this is happening? You said you are loved. Then why I'm experiencing this? You said you are powerful. Then why I'm going through this? Do you know what I mean? This is what he is doing here. Lord, the more I thought of your goodness, the more I doubt you. The more I thought you're powerful and able to do everything far beyond we can think or imagine, then why I'm going through this? The more I thought of you, the more I can sleep, I can't eat, I can't talk. I know you're there, but why this is happening to me? Have you prayed that prayer before? I know you're faithful, but it seems that you are not doing your job there. Then Asaph said, I think of the good old days, long since ended. Before, it was a good times with you, God. But I think those days are gone. That's what he's saying. Before, we're good, Lord. We're so happy serving you and serving your people, and then those things are gone. And then he said this. He was a choir director. When my nights were filled with joy, full songs, with my music in other translation, I searched my soul and pondered the difference now. He was saying, before, Lord, I'm comforted by your music, by the music, by singing joyful songs. But it's totally different now. And it seems it's not working. And let me talk about music for briefly. Music is very important when you go through spiritual darkness. I myself want to listen to God. I myself want to just experience and reflect the beauty of music. And our spiritual, our choir, our music director, also that he's run to, that is his go-to. Our worship pastor would just play wonderful music just to cope with all the stress of life. And there's a story of Benny. Benny was 6 years old during that time. His family was attacked by the terrorists. His 3 friends died, including his brother, whom he adored so much. The creative and outgoing boy, young person, I could imagine, it's like Cale, a year younger than Cale, suddenly became withdrawn and unable to focus. He developed anger issues. He developed concentration issues. Then his parents decided to send him to a new therapy that they heard, and that's the music therapy. Slowly, week by week, he began to regain his old self and able to get himself back. And he's adult now. It's a true story. He's an adult now. He has a family. He has 1 kid, and also working full-time. That is the impact of music as we go through this darkness of life. Music is a great help. Try it. Listen to jazz music. Don't listen to the more you get stressed. Just listen to calm music. If you know how to play, you play. You know how to sing, you sing. Sing it. But in this case of Asaph, he was saying that, Lord, before it works. It worked. This time, music is not working anymore. And he was trying to say that those old days are gone, and I can see the difference now. And Asaph was like, I'm a singer. I tried before. This time, it's not working. I'm a songwriter. I tried to write during those down times. This time, it's not working. Where are you? I need your help. Before, you're good. This time, what's happening today? What am I missing to this relationship that we have, Lord? And then after he said this, that those old days are gone, and now I'm doomed. He asked these 6 questions, which probably you have asked in some point of your life. Will the Lord reject forever? Will He never show His favor again? Has His unfailing love vanished forever? Has His promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has He in anger withheld His compassion? These questions are statements of doubt. He is now doubting the goodness of God, which is sometimes okay. But like what I said, don't go to the point that you will resent and develop bitterness in your heart. This is a question of why, Lord? Why? Where are you, God? It's a form of questioning towards God. He's questioning His goodness. He's questioning His faithfulness. He's questioning His love, His mercy. Of course, the answer to all these questions, no. God will never reject us forever. God will always show favor and grace to all of us. God will continue to lavish His love for us. And God will keep His promise. He is a promise keeper. God will never forget us, and His mercy is new every morning. And He will never withhold His compassion, but will always show compassion to all of us. The answer to this is absolutely no. But for Asaph, this is how he reacted. And I said, "This is my fate, Lord. The Most High has turned His right hand against me." This is so dangerous. When we go through a darkness of the soul, the valley of darkness, when we go through a spiritual depression, don't you ever say, God abandoned you. Don't you ever say that He turned His hands against you. Self-pity is a self-centered attitude. When we self-pity, oh, I'm so bad. Cannot God forgive me? God cannot love me. God cannot be there for me. You will say, God is absent. God is distant. God is not listening. God is no longer there for me. But the beauty here, this is his initial conclusion. But he made some very, very good realization. Then Asaph said, "But then I recall all you have done, O Lord. I remember your wonderful deeds long, long time ago." And now he's starting to come to his senses and to realize that, Lord, I know you're not absent. I know you're not distant from me. I know you're always present. And you will actively involved in my family. I may not feel it. It may seem that you're not doing anything, but Lord, I know because I can recall what you have done to my life. Remember, Lord, you reconcile our family when it was hopeless. When my father and mother are going to divorce, and then you reconcile and mend their love for each other. Remember, Lord, that the doctor said I'll be living for 2 months only. Wow, Lord, I lived 3 years now. Lord, remember, Lord, that I don't have job before. Now I have job and many, many opportunities. Remember, Lord, that I was so lost. You found me, and now I have hope. My wife asked me a question during my birthday. She said, "Now that you're 40, what are you looking forward for the next 10 years? I was like, oh, that's a good question. Because what I really thought during that birthday is, I look back and thought of where I was the past 10 years. I was thinking, when we celebrated my 30th birthday, oh man, we were drinking. I was drunk. Now, 10 years ago, I was gambling, womanizing, doing worldly things. And I was like, wow. Then, God rescued me. Now I'm here. It's like, Lord, this is the wonderful deeds you did to me. I will never be worthy to stand here before you. It is only by the grace and grace of God alone. And when I thought of that 10 years, I say, Lord, you have been so good to me. And whenever I thought that you are distant, I will never believe that lie, because I know you are always present. When Asaph realized this is what he exclaimed. I will reflect on all your works, and I will meditate on all your mighty deeds. This time he is now acknowledging what God has done and who God is in the past. The problem is with us sometimes. We define the faithfulness of God based on our situation. I am sad. Oh, God does not care. I am in trouble. Oh, God is not there for me. I am in need. Oh, God is not providing. I am brokenhearted. Oh, God does not care. That's not how it works. Our situation may change, but God's faithfulness will always, always, and will never, never change. Will always be new every morning. It will never, never change. You and I will change. Our situation may change, but God will never change. The right attitude is, I'm sad. I know God is always there. I'm in need. I know God will provide. I am in trouble. I know God will protect me and will deliver me from trouble. I'm brokenhearted and disappointed. I know God feels how I feel. He understands and He cares. Do not define the faithfulness of God based on your situation. Define your situation based on the faithfulness of God. So there's a sudden change of attitude here. And this should be our attitude when God seems silent. Remember His faithfulness in your life. Now, look at this wonderful statement. This is the last verse. Your ways, God, are holy, and no other God compare with you. You are the God who performs miracles. You demonstrate your awesome power. With your mighty arm, you redeem your people. I want you to notice the change of pronouns. In verse 1, Asaph said, I cried out to God. In verse 2, he said, I am in distress. In verse 3, he said, I am in trouble. I am overwhelmed with trouble. In verse 4, he said, I was restless. I can't sleep. I can't talk. I can't eat. In verse 5 and 6, he said, I think of those good old days and it was gone. And suddenly there's a change of heart. And then he said, you, God, you, not me. You, your ways are holy. And no other God compared with you. You are the God. You demonstrate your awesome power, your mighty arms. You redeem your people. It's no longer Him, but it's all about Him, God. If we focus on ourselves, we would think God does not care. If we focus on our need, we would think God is so small. But if we focus on who God is and what He is capable to do, you will think everything will be okay. And God truly cares one day. is my last message. The presence of spiritual depression always gives way to the presence of God. When you remember God's faithfulness in your life in the past, when you go through the dark moments of life, when you go through the darkness of your soul, when you go through the crisis of faith and spiritual depression, think that there's always sunlight after darkness. There's always rainbow after the storm, because His loving kindness is everlasting. His faithfulness is new every morning. His grace is sufficient for you and me. His presence may not be felt, but you can be assured that God is always there. I guarantee you, you can be assured of that truth.